Chapter 12. Skoll. The Red Maiden awoke in her own lodge, wrapped in the glorious comfort of furs and bedding that she had killed, skinned, and cured with her own hands. The deep, dark, smoky smells and sensations were all of home and the comfort to be found therein. She felt as one does when a high fever is suddenly broken, all the days of misery and chills, aching and weakness gone. She could stretch her arms and legs wide, pull air into her rib cage, and expand her lungs to complete fullness without pain, exhaustion, or a coughing fit. No innovation, just simple, all-consuming pleasure as the powerful muscles righted themselves. She rolled her neck and sat up. At the foot of her bed knelt the old woman from the diner. The crone held Gunhilda's Carolingian sword across her knees. She wiped it with oil, then rubbed away the excess. It gleamed in the firelight. She slid it home into its leather sheath and then set it aside. When she peered up and saw Gunhilda staring at her, she smiled. "Odin give you good morning, child. How you feel now?" The Red Maiden sat there stunned. The crone sighed. "You ain't ready, are you, Red Girl?" She shook her head. "But don't you worry. We'll get you there. I'll give you my guarantee." Gunhilda shoved her furs back and grabbed for the axe at her bedside. She stood, holding it at the ready as she backed away from the old woman. Her naked body felt the crisp bite of the morning air, but the contraction of her belly, the goose pimpling of her scar-stitched skin, and hardening of her nipples were not from the frigid temperature. A vulva. A god's cursed vulva witch had her as prisoner. There was the answer. Not illness, not henbane. She was spellbound somehow. She warded the crone with the axe and edged toward the doorway. "I said, you ain't ready," the old woman said. "Don't you walk through that door, girl, or there's a price you're gonna have to pay." Gunhilda's breath caught and she paused. "That's right, child. You're no dummy. Come back and sit here with me. We're gonna chat a while, if that be all right with you. Get your head screwed on straight here and now, before you dive back into things." The crone stood and walked to the coals burning in Gunhilda's fire pit. She stoked the fire and tossed another log into it. The coals sparked and spat. A moment passed, and flame leapt up the sides of the fresh wood and began to eat away at it, red and orange tongues of flame licking up its sides until it embraced the chaos of the fire contentedly. The crone leaned back and let the fire warm her hands. "Much better. Got that fire burning hot now. Come sit, girl." Gunhilda held on to her axe. She crossed, still wary, and sat opposite the old woman, glaring at her across the fire pit. The old woman laughed and clapped her hands. "Ha! All righty then. I know the day's just begun, but I think we can have ourselves a little taste of your aquavitae. Don't you think? We've been busy, and most certain have earned a nip of the good stuff. What you say, girl?" Gunhilda said nothing, but that did not impede the vulva's glee even a little bit. She popped the cork on the skin of aquavitae and poured big splashes of the liquor into a matching pair of oxen drinking horns. She leaned over the fire, close enough to burn herself badly, offering Gunhilda a horn. The flames did not touch her. Gunhilda did not move. "Well, child, You can hit me with that there axe, or you can take this drink with me. Makes me no never mind. Gunhilda stayed still. But bear in mind, every choice got consequences. Just ask Prometheus. Gunhilda tested her grip on the axe handle, flexing her hand and forearm. Yes, she felt better than she had, but even with whatever fever had been burning in her gone, she knew she was not at full strength. At strength, she would have risked all and taken the cut with the axe. Instead, she brushed her braid back, then reached out and took the horn. The crone smiled a crooked-toothed smile and sat back. Glad you opted to partake. That fire was getting a warmer than hell, and that's saying something. She laughed and inhaled the scent of the harsh liquor. Smells like it's gonna bite me. Let's have a taste, shall we? She held up her horn to Gunhilda, who lifted hers half-heartedly in return. Oh, girl, that'll never do. I need to see some enthusiasm, child. Otherwise, ain't no point. Gunhilda's demeanor did not change. The crone stopped and lowered her horn, a frown furrowing her wrinkled brow. You know what enthusiasm means to them Greeks. Gunhilda had never heard of the Greeks or the word either. It's a great word, powerful word. Enthusiasm means energy of the gods. Ha! Ain't that one hell of a turn of phrase? Gunhilda nodded agreement. Well, that's something we can match terms on, at least. Most certainly a start. Why don't we drink to that, then? She raised her horn again. To the energy of the gods. Gunhilda thought of her personal pantheon. She nodded and lifted her horn. Good, good. As your people say, skull. May you drink from the skulls of your enemies. Gunhilda lifted her horn, then brought it to her lips. The aquavitae burned from lips to liver. It hit her belly and warmed her, cutting through the damp cold of the air. The crone drank. She nodded, satisfied. Yes, girl, that is the good stuff. Now we get to the brass tacks of things. You special child. You got a most important role to play. Most important. You may not be the hero of this story, or the heroine for that matter, but you ain't just some spear carrier neither. And in my eyes, you're gonna be something even better than a so-called hero. You, Gunhilda, about to be Mars in the flesh. You about to rise up and finish things off for good. The crone finished her drink, then stood on her stiff legs and walked around the pit to sit beside the naked young woman. She patted Gunhilda's thigh and leaned in, whispering into her ear. Gunhilda's goosebumps spiked again as the breath hit her eardrum, but this time the rush of feelings was pleasure, not fear. She sat at her fire pit and listened. She was not completely certain she understood everything the old woman said, but she began to understand what was being asked of her. She knew then that it was not all a dream. Gunhilda had truly been the German cavalryman, burning through Amiens in jodhpurs and riding boots, superhuman and unkillable, and she could do it all again if she so chose. The thought gave her a thrill. If there was madness tempting her here, the fear of it had dulled away. Her anxiety was revealed as excitement. She felt the specialness about herself the old woman insisted was inherent. When she flexed her axe hand again, the old woman's surprised gift from the Greeks, The energy of the gods flowed through her. She was ready to do her bit, filled right up to the brim with enthusiasm.